Well, I'm from Norway. You can see from the background, this is the view from my kitchen window. Right now it's winter and it's cold and it's early morning. Yeah, this is how life is here right now. A key concept for me since the 1990s is wisdom. And I believe that what the world needs really is more wisdom. And I've been working on this since then in schools and also in family relationship education. And some of the background, the background for my work is vast, of course, but some of the background is can be found in Karl Jaspers and his introduction to philosophy, Way to Wisdom. And here he claims that the source of philosophy is to be found in wonder, for instance, in Socrates and Plato, in doubt, which is Descartes, in a sense of forsakenness in existential boundary situation, which can be brought back to the Stoics, and which he argues for in profound communication from existence to existence or from mind to mind. And the philosophical question is that the activity, and thus the activity of philosophizing is in his view a process of continual change and self-discovery through profound communication involving all the three sources. Also, Pierre Hadot is very important for me. His book, Philosophy as a Way of Life, Spiritual Exercises from Socrates to Foucault, both Jaspers and Hadot has been mentioned by quite a few of the presenters yesterday and the day before. He argues in his book that ancient schools of philosophy all agreed that philosophy and the activity of philosophizing involves the individual's love of and search of wisdom, and that attaining to such Sophia was the highest good for human beings. They also agreed, they were very different. That is important to say. It's he argues that to leave one school of philosophy and go to another would be like religious conversion, actually. So this is how different they were, but still they agreed on something. And one thing is that even though they had different concepts of wisdom, they agreed that wisdom is kind of the main task of philosophizing. And they also agreed that most people live unwise lives most of the time, and that unwise lives are characterized by unnecessary forms of suffering and disorder, and that mankind's principal cause of suffering, disorder, and unconsciousness were the passions, that is, unregulated desires and exaggerated fears. And that people are prevented from truly living because they are dominated by the passions. And this is probably also, well, we can recognize this is also in the yoga tradition, for instance. And when it comes to the Dialogos approach, which is kind of my approach, or how I have tried to articulate and formulate an approach for philosophical practicing groups, it can, this word dialogos, it consists of two elements: dia, which means through, between, across, or by, or logos, which also comes from Greek, meaning word, reason, speech, and wisdom. So then the Bhagavad Gita has been mentioned quite a few times here, so I thought it would be okay to also mention the Bible, where in in John, first chapter of John starts with these words: in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And the name of this chapter in English is The Word Became Flesh. The Word became body, which is also then referring to the embodiment of wisdom. We can change for an experiment, we can just change the word with, for instance, reason, speech, or wisdom. In the beginning was wisdom, and the wisdom was with God, and the wisdom was God, for instance. Viktor Frankl talked about, in his book, talks about the will to meaning. And my suggestion is to talk about the will to wisdom as a kind of, maybe not aim, but yeah, a purpose of philosophizing. Oscar Brennefield yesterday don't want to talk about a purpose, but I guess there's a reason why we do things. So dialogos philosophizing could then be seen as a willful way to engage wisdom. And we can ask, is it a way to develop increased wisdom? Or is it a way to nurture and cultivate the wisdom we already have? Or is it a way to connect to universal wisdom or logos? If we see the word dia, it can mean between. It's between something, between people, maybe the dialogue. Another very important inspiration is the Bildung tradition, Bildung zur Humanität, which was a very important concept in German thought at the turn of the 18th and 19th century. And they talked about, they were debating education and politics in the turn at this point of time, and they discussed how to create what they call a true humanity based on ideals of equality, respect, recognition, and communicative democracy. So here also the political element is important, which Lydia Amir talked about, for instance, in her presentation. And human beings are capable of reasonable self-determinance, and we're not born human, according to their ideas. We become human through self-education. And important contributors in this debate is, for instance, Herder, Rousseau, Goethe, Kant, Schiller, Hegel, and so forth. And their creed kind of was that becoming truly human is a task for every generation if they are to avoid sinking into brutality and destructiveness. And to become truly human is in order to become truly human, a person needs education, and especially language. And our words are like glasses or eyes. And language is the way we can see ourselves, our actions, and our relations to others and to the world. And they also have this idea of making the implicit explicit, which I connect to the Gnothetheaton, which is the inscription above the temple of Apollo in ancient Greece, which actually means then know thyself. So preparing for this presentation, I looked at some older presentations, and I realized that what I talked about in Iceland in 2009, actually I could almost use this presentation, but of course there's been a lot of work done in between 2009 and now, especially trying out this approach in different contexts, and then gaining quite a bit of experience, then seeing that, well, I think I'm justified in much of my this perspective that I'm trying to work out. And this some of this is the Dialogos books is kind of the basis, which was written in the period 2000 to 2009. This is in Norwegian. And then also Fortsatt Foreldre, which is a program for divorcing parents to help them collaborate and reduce conflict in order to take properly care of their children. As you may know, the divorce is quite a problem in the West. And maybe there's not so much war outside at the moment, even though the situation is tense, for instance, between Ukraine and Russia, and there's between, so of course it's relevant, but the wars in the families are also a struggle, which is, and I, in my view, philosophical practice can really make a contribution both into regular education and also into family relationship education. So, and in both these two programs, which I've been working on very intensively in this to develop and now also to further, is the ideas of inner freedom and flexibility of mind. So in the session, this last session of Perpetually Parents or Fortsatt Foreldre, it's called towards forgiveness, reconciliation, and inner freedom. And the last exercise in the Dialogos books is peace, also as inner freedom. So just very short, the idea here, of course, it's a purpose here, and you can ask: is this can we have a purpose like this and still call it philosophical practice? And I believe that yes, we can actually. And first of all, people come to this voluntarily. They come because they need something. They are in a border situation in life. They're maybe in an existential crisis. Their partner left them. They're there with their children. What do they do? And having a structured course like this with elements of philosophical practice and philosophical reflection within it is really helpful. And the first pilot course I conducted myself it was in 2007. And 2 years ago, a person that took part in that course came to me and said, Guro, what is it about Fortsatt Foreldre that is still working in me? Why is this course? Why do I still come back to what we talked about and what we learned in this course so many years after? And I answered her that I think it's because of the philosophical practice part of it, that we reflected deeply about issues that were of extreme importance to her at the moment. So it's really, helping parents to move from a more or less ego-centered perspective. When you're in a conflict or in a crisis, you get more self-centered usually than normally, and it really makes it hard for you both to see the situation in a greater perspective and also maybe to see your children and to really connect to them. So you really need to make an effort to make this happen. And it's also really important because we know that that parental conflict over time is created very mental problems in children and young adults. So that's, in that sense, it's also urgent. So, and this program now has been offered as a government-driven program in all regions of Norway since 2011. And it's being revised at the moment. I work with that revision, and then I will articulate the philosophical practice elements even better than before. So I think I'll just now move on because time flies, but this is some philosophical practice elements that are taken into the program. For instance, self-reflection through comparison to theoretical input, perspective taking through imagination, finding concrete examples for mutual reflection, and attentive listening and commenting. And like the questions, some of the questions that we explore is: how might the situation look from your child's perspective? And how does it imply to, what does it imply to break a pattern of action? And what does it imply to see a child, and so forth? So, and then this Dialogos approach also used in classrooms and in school. How much time do I have left? It feels...
You have 5 more minutes left.
Yeah, right. Well, this is kind of the I in the Dialogos approach, which I imagine can be expanded in different directions. For instance, through critical analytical work, through spiritual ideal work, but by that I mean working with ideals like forgiveness, like reconciliation, such concepts. You can kind of connect the abstract and the concrete in ways that makes your consciousness expand. The existential emotional, the relational communicative, which would then imply also being able to take the perspective of other people involved in the situation you find yourself in. The cultural historical, which would imply, for instance, using small texts, or it could be in the Indian context from the Bhagavad Gita, or it could be also small philosophical texts or other. And also the practical ethical, which is about prudence, how to act wisely in concrete situation using examples from real life situations. So, and the Dialogos approach is mainly developed for philosophizing in groups. That means in schools, university, family therapy, and the public sphere. And it's process oriented. It's either supposed to be conducted as a series of shorter dialogue sessions, or a series of full day workshops or full day sessions. And it's then diverse exercises with the different foci illustrated in this six-dimensional map for wisdom oriented teaching. So, and really all participants of all ages and all walks of life can take part without any prior philosophical training. And this is also important. It's rather because you always start from the life of the participants and what they say. It's possible to also do it with children. So, and really the place of edification, or the place of Bildung, or the place of self-development, or the expansion from ego consciousness to a more situational or even universal consciousness, is to be found in the intersection between the I, the others, and the subject matter, the dialogue between those three. This is from Dialogos. And just to say something about the other things that I've been working on, or this is an ongoing project for this year, where I will go into, well, I've had a project with an upper secondary school, the whole staff of around 130. And we will do philosophical dialogues in all the sections at the school, with the sports and athletic teachers, the natural science and mathematics teachers, the language teachers, even the farming and gardening teacher, and also the staff at student dorm, janitor, canteen, and cleaning will be assessed. So this will be ongoing for 12 dialogues, full day dialogues during the year. And of course, I will also publish on it when it's finished. And I also am a part of a project with the Savitribai Puri University and the School of Education there, where we have had, it's about teacher education, but we have had philosophical dialogues with students and teachers from different colleges, both in India and in Norway. And also there's also participants here from Finland, Iceland, and other Nordic countries. So yeah.
So you're left with 1 more minute.
Yes, I think maybe it's just I think just I want to mention one project, which is the Gandhi Project, where a minor refugee took part. It was 10 dialogues that lasted for 3 months. this was conducted in 2010, and I just want to share what he said after 5 months after this project. He said that when we started the project, it was as if I was trapped inside of a ring. It was narrow inside of me. When I encountered a problem, whether it was at school or in life in general, I stopped. I did not go further. I gave up. Then during the project, it was as if something exploded inside of me like an atomic bomb. It was as if I was looking into an endless horizon. Now, when I encounter a problem, whether in general life or in school work, I do not stop anymore. I know there's a way and I continue. And so here are some of my articles, some written alone, some with others, so you can look them up if you want to look a little bit more into this work. So, and I also am facilitating a Dialogos retreat online from April 1st till April 3rd. So if you want to join, it's possible. Thank you.